Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this is a brief video about the full moon in Libra, which is happening on March 31st, 2018 at 8:36 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so this is a blue moon, the second blue moon we've had in 2018. And blue moons, just for review, are the second full moons in a month. Our first one happened on March 1st. In Virgo, and so now we're the next sign over in Libra, and it's the last day of the month. And whenever there's a full moon, it means that the sun is opposing that full moon. And so in this case, we're talking about the polarity of the first and seventh houses. So the sun in Aries is in the first house of the self, which Aries rules. And Aries is a fire sign, so all fire signs are going to be independent. And they're also very much concerned with the self and creative self-expression. In addition, Aries is a cardinal sign, and cardinal signs are about taking action. But in the case of Aries, it's action on their own behalf. So this is why Aries people, or somebody with a prominent Aries, sometimes get accused of being self-absorbed, selfish, not that they're not generous, because they definitely are. But in terms of that, looking out for themselves versus thinking about how their actions affect somebody else. The seventh house that Libra rules is all about partnership versus the individual. And so you have somebody who is defining themselves in terms of their partner. So Aries is going to define themselves based on what they accomplish on their own. And Libra, it's usually based upon their actions that they've taken with others, maybe being part of a collaborative effort or one-on-one effort, or within the realm of relationship, marriage, the equivalent of marriage, which is what the seventh house represents, committed partnership. So when we look at what is happening at this full moon time, the moon is in the seventh house. So it is revealing the secrets that are related to the marriage. There could be people who have unpleasant surprises, perhaps, that are uncovered, but things can rapidly manifest and change the relationship when you have this kind of energy, because if the full moon is all about unearthing secrets and detoxing the situation, then that means, and you're talking about two cardinal signs with Aries and Libra in that opposition, then it's almost like somebody walking home and seeing their spouse in bed with their best friend, and they walk out that night and never come back, where things just kind of, rapidly develop. Because we have a lot of hard angles to Mars, the ruler of Aries, at this time. The sun is squaring Mars, you have the moon squaring Mars, and you have Mercury squaring Mars. Also a lot of hard angles from the moon, from the sun, moon, and Mercury to Saturn. So there could be a lot of rigid mindsets where people are digging in their heels and refusing to acknowledge the other person's point of view. But on top of that, because we're talking about a lot of cardinal signs here, there can be people who are trying to impose their will on the other party, and it's not going to go over well because, especially with the moon being your emotional nature, squaring Mars. Could be a lot of emotional fireworks. And so it's not necessarily a good time. What day of the week? Oh, this is going to be, oh, this is lovely. This is going to be on a Saturday. But it's exact, that full moon is exact in the morning. Well, in America, some of you are going to have it later in the afternoon, or once again, Australia, you're on your own. I don't know what your time difference is from America, maybe 16 hours. So it could even be on maybe April Fool's Day that you experience this full moon. I'm not entirely sure, but it's all in the same ballpark. Let's put it that way. But some of you may be having it closer to evening or in the evening, and that can make the Saturday night quite interesting. Basically, I think there's a lot of ego going on here. And, you know, with Aries, that's always going to be the case of people putting themselves first, which can be a very good thing if you're in a codependent relationship. It can actually be a lifeline to you, because you will see something will be revealed about your partner that makes it easier to leave if you have been staying. Now, let's say you have a partner who is, you know, an alcoholic, has some kind of an addiction, and you've been in denial, or maybe you've stayed in the relationship because you feel sorry for them, or, you know, some other kind of a situation that is their fault in terms of like they got themselves into that mess, but you still feel sorry for them. Something may be revealed about their character, about them, that makes you understand that it's really not healthy to remain in this situation any longer. And there's going to be a sense of urgency with a lot of people who are dealing with relationship issues, that you're just going to want to make change. And actually, the best thing you could do is not act on emotion, because it never ends well when you have cardinal planets, signs that are in that Moon-Mars square, because they will tend to be rash and they're acting on emotion. Emotions are reactions. They're very subjective, and they don't necessarily indicate the direction we want to go in. Yes, we're supposed to pay attention to our feelings. Abraham Hicks talks about that our feelings are like our GPS system that give us that sense of direction, you know, in terms of what we really like and what we don't, and, you know, our preferences, so that we can make choices, but also so we can come up with ideas on what to do when we're confused about what it is that is our passion in life. Whatever it is that makes you excited, that's probably what you should do. You just have to figure out how to parlay that into a career. But in this case, we're talking about reactions, not taking action. We're talking about reaction, which means that it's coming from an outer source. You're not being self-determining. You're reacting to an outer source, and it could be that partner that is triggering you, or forcing your hand in some way. And so it's up to the individual to see that person as they truly are. And when they are able to do that, then there's no guilt, because otherwise you may be like kind of deluded into thinking that they need you, when in fact what they need is anybody who is willing to put up with their crap. In terms of other things that may be going on that are not specifically relationship oriented, I think that, you know, there's the sun is in Aries at this time. So there is a lot of just feelings of autonomy. It can be like a real boost to people who feel like they are wishy-washy and rather, how would I put it? indecisive and, well, I guess that's what wishy-washy is. Don't have much of a backbone. Mars in Capricorn is like the military strategist. So it's actually it's exalted. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. However, because the sun is in Aries and the moon is in Libra, they're both forming squares to Mars, as well as Mercury being in Aries. So watch out for a tendency to run your mouth and fly off the handle, emotionally, and say something that you will regret. It doesn't have to be to a lover, a love partner, a lover. That word is, I just find that such a cheesy word, lover or lover. A partner. It can be anybody that you're dealing with that you get annoyed and you just say something off the top of your head, but it could be something that has long-lasting effects. So this is going to be one of those doozies of a full moon where we have to really chill and keep our cool, keep our wits about us, because if you've ever if you're sensitive to energy, and it's like even before the actual full moon, you can witness people acting really nutso. And it's like, I did it even like with the new moon and with the equinox, where people were driving like bats out of hell and just erratic behavior in general. I've been seeing that, like people driving like too fast for conditions. That's Aries. Aries is impatient. So even if you're a Taurus who's supposed to have the patience of Job, you may get into this daredevil or, racing too quickly. And like when, because I don't drive, so I'm either like walking on the sidewalk or riding my bike, and I can feel the velocity as a car is like whizzing by. And these are on residential streets. And it's like it started when the equinox happened, when the sun went into Aries. And it was like clockwork. And I've seen other times where there's a lot of hot-headedness during Aries begin at that equinox. People getting, flying off the handle or just like getting mouthy. Be careful about getting mouthy with Mercury square Mars, shooting off your mouth just impulsively. And with the sun square Mars, there may be people that have chips on their shoulders for some reason, and they're out to prove something. And that's not really cool either, because some of these people can be loose cannons with the moon square Mars. So it's one of those full moons that you might want to, sit home with a nice book or something and not deal with these crazies out here, because people, are going to be probably acting a fool and acting like they're one fry short of a Happy Meal. And let me see if there's any good things going on. Well, Venus is trining Mars. So that's kind of interesting, because if you're in a relationship with somebody and everything is going well, this can just be a really kind of a very harmonious time for those people who are in relationships that are already, running smoothly. When I talk about this seventh house situation, this will be for those people who are already experiencing trouble. It can be also a situation where you feel blindsided if you find out something about your spouse, and you'll say, I never saw it coming. But with Aries and the sun in Aries, there can be this oblivious nature where the person isn't seeing the little details that are going on, the little red flags, the little hints of, problems below the surface of things. Libra is a sign of everything's fine, wanting that veneer to be perfect and that everything is okay. And Aries is really more, I would call it, if you want to say authentic, yeah, because Aries is like, I'm me, and if you don't like it, you can shove it. They're not interested in trying to appease other people. So it is kind of like highlighting the differences between being a people pleaser like a Libran and being too self-centered. These are those extremes that polarity represents. The self-absorption, the lack of concern about the feelings of another are the two extremes of this full moon in Libra. And so just kind of play around with it and see what comes up for you. And maybe it'll give you a better understanding of how you approach relationships and what your mindset is regarding them, because we can always change. And it's interesting that there's a square between Mercury and Saturn, because that can indicate narrow-minded ideas. And that's what these squares are all about, that sense of conflict that causes us to try even harder. Sometimes when there's a lot of trines, whether it's in your natal chart or in one of these predictive charts, we may take things for granted because everything is just copacetic, mellow, moving very smoothly. And so we may just be tempted to chill and not really double down and try harder to make to make things happen that we want to happen. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this and have a wonderful full moon, blue moon in Libra, guys. Bye.